Blazer again. Except we're gonna restart it this time around. I already played through the beginning of the game last week, but thanks to some technical difficulties, I'm not really comfortable with putting that video up on YouTube, so this is going to be more of a posterity thing. The definitive version of the first segment of Soul Blazer. And then we're going to continue on as normal. And just like last time, we're going to be following along with the adventures of Cat Jesus as he attempts to rescue the ever-living souls of absolutely everything from the clutches of Satan. So the story of the game is pretty simple. A very evil king decided to kidnap the most powerful scientist in all the land and force him to build a machine to summon the devil. And what's the first thing he did as soon as he got his devil summoning machine? Why, sell the soul of everything to him for kind of a paltry 1 gold apiece. Not exactly a wise business decision as far as I'm concerned. I'm pretty sure that the free market would dictate that a soul is worth a lot more than just 1 piece of gold each. So it's our job to get them all back, and we do that by killing monsters and stepping on glowing switches. Yeah, and that's basically the flow of the game. You kill things, you step on switches, and every once in a while you'll have to go back and forth from the dungeon to whatever the next town area is, and talk to some of the people, things, inanimate objects, whatever, that you freed. As you can see, right now everything's kind of blank. Everything is still captured, with the possible exception of one little tulip down here. He's just basically reiterating how the game works. Alright, onwards to action. Early on the enemies are pretty stupid. What I'm doing right now is holding down the R button, which lets you put your sword straight out in front of you. And this acts as both telekinesis, much like in Illusion of Gaia, where you can draw small objects towards you. In this case, the gems that are being dropped. See? The gems are the fuel for your magic. Of which, yes, that's right, we do have a magic spell. I forgot to equip it. There we go. There's the fireball. And the way magic works is we've got the glowing wisp that's floating around us. I can just press Y whenever I want to fire a fireball, and it will fire in the current direction that I am facing. And you can actually move the wisp around if you press against a wall. It's kind of cool. Anyways, can't, get the goblin quite that easily, though they are very stupid. But I have to go around the fence to get there. Note that when I stepped on the lair, in addition to freeing the old woman, I also got a bit of health back. Sometimes that little bit of health can be the difference between life and death. Though not particularly often, since it's so paltry. It's just, what, 1 bar? Now, not all monsters come from a monster lair. Those puddles of water are in fact slimes, like the one that I just took out. Now, not every monster lair will also free something in the original world. Some of them just modify the dungeon. In this case, I got a medical herb. Medical herbs are very important. If you have it equipped and you die, you'll get a full heal. You can only carry one at a time, though. So if you already have one and you pick up another, you'll just get fully healed right then and there. Now, last time around, we had a little trouble with this part. My old controller went on the fritz. That said, I remembered to use the correct one this time, so I'm not going to have all the buttons going off at once drama. I like how the game isn't, directionally challenged. It doesn't want to confuse you with things like north or south, east, west. That could mean anything. Just point. Point at the way that you want me to go. A standard disclaimer, kind of insulting, but at least you get experience points this time around. The experience points are kind of a formality, really. You don't ever have an opportunity to really grind, per se, because most of the enemies don't respawn because they come out of these layers. All you really need to do in order to be strong enough as you move on is to just, play the game as normal. And I really appreciate that, actually. As pretentious as this game can get with some of the story stuff, the gameplay is very sound. And non-obnoxious, most of the time. Though it can be kind of repetitive. The tool shop owner is extremely handy. He can always refill our medical herb if we don't have one. Oops. Now, what's kind of annoying is that you can't stick out your sword and block like you could in Illusion of Gaia. And, specifically in the case of Illusion of Gaia, this is basically the spiritual prequel to Illusion of Gaia. They are said to take place in more or less the same universe, and they deal with a lot of the same themes. And neither one of them makes a particular amount of sense. But in terms of, what the fuck is going on factor, this game makes far more sense than Illusion of Gaia and Terranigma, which is the third one in the loosely connected trilogy. And we get a quick clue as to what we need to do next. Somewhere in here there is an elevator that we're not going to be able to take. And to move on, we'll have to find and free the watermill. And its owner, I guess, but its owner is useless. The watermill is what we really need to free. These guys, they seem like they're more dangerous because they can shoot at you, but they're really stupid. And the terrain lends itself well to hiding behind a wall and somehow slashing them. Moving on. Flies. Any fan of Dark Souls will know that flies, or mosquitoes in that case, will fucking kill you if they get the chance. These guys are really pretty annoying, and the fact that there's that torch shooting you actually makes them harder than they need to be. A lot of times you'll get, it's kind of the original Legend of Zelda theory of how to deal damage to the player. Just put a bunch of things that are stationary and will shoot you from time to time in the same room as a bunch of enemies. The Dream Rod is incredibly important. We're going to use that a lot throughout the game. Basically, what it does is if you see somebody who's sleeping, you use the Dream Rod to talk to them. Now these guys are going to be in for a pretty unpleasant surprise just as soon as I get them to line up. Even if you couldn't just shoot a fireball through the wood at them, you can still extend the range of the wisp by pressing in the direction of the wall when you're standing right up next to it. Even if they had decided that this particular spell couldn't go through walls, I could still get the wisp in there and just assassinate all the plants without actually having to go in there and deal with them in close combat. And really, when there's that many, you don't want to go deal with them in close combat. If there's a lot of them, they'll swarm you and bad things will happen. So by taking a few of them out ahead of time, it makes mopping up the rest easier. Now that ivy is very crucial. Well, we're going to climb down that later on and get some neat stuff. Once again, the Yellow Goblin guys, I mean, they could have been a contender. They could have been a real threat. but due to the positioning, they are just more fodder. You have to wonder, with all the moving walkways, was this an airport at some point? I mean, spoilers, there are airports in this game. Not necessarily, the modern day airports that we know of, but they exist. Oh, hit detection on the monster layers is kind of difficult, actually. Sometimes you just run around like an idiot. It happens. Sadly, the Watermill Keeper comes with the territory. And when they say the soul of all living things, in the intro to the game, they actually mean the soul of all things, living and otherwise. I wouldn't count the elevator as a living thing, but I guess it's one of God's creatures, so it's Cat Jesus' job to protect it. And of course, there would be one monster lair remaining. Oh well, deal with it later. Can't quite remember where it is right now. So let's go back to the town and take a look around and see what's going on. Let's start here. I'd say that's very loosely correct. There is a man, but he doesn't run much of anything. Tests my patience, he doesn't really run the elevator. It's a bit of a creepy choice, but yeah, sure, whatever. Allowing ourselves to be the child of the chief's wife will give us a full heal, so while creepy, we should do it. Moving on. This is the tool shop. We don't need that quite yet. So, let's do a quick save. Now, when you die, you're actually just kicked back to here. Even if you didn't save, you're kicked back with basically all of your progress intact. It's very lenient. The one thing that really screws you up is that all of your gems, which is the fuel for your magic, they all vanish when you die. So the only real need to go back and save on a regular basis is to keep your gems if you want to save scum the game. And I guess, if you want to quit and do something else. Oh my god, this guy's such a pansy. Let Cat Jesus show you how it's done. Alright. Dumbass. So that'll open up the way to move on in the underground castle. But there's still a couple more things we can do here. Let's see. Down around here, we've got... Ah, there's the ivy. We can come down here. And get some free experience. Now, we can't get these chests yet. Oh, now we can get these chests. A little mixed up on where we are. Anyways, this is the first piece of armor, and note how instead of having some actual, numbers to try to tell you how strong something is, it's all done in, symbolic nomenclature. With, swords, shields. I don't think they get into half swords and half shields, but don't be shocked if they do. It's kind of a meaningless system, really. You don't know, how much damage anything does. It's all relative. Kind of odd, if you ask me. Now, in Illusion of Gaia, there was, plenty of numbers. Same thing in Terranigma. But here, just, swords, shields, etc. Let's see. I don't think the missing monster layer is up there. Might as well move on. Oh, there it is. Okay. Now if you notice, all the monsters get a brief invincibility period as they're put onto the screen. It's actually kind of annoying. I want an invincibility period when I get onto the screen. Of course, this game counts in anime years, so that old man is really just, 20-something, 30 max. I think it's a nice touch that the big gems take longer to get to you when you use your telekinesis on them, but I don't appreciate that they vanish extremely fast. Even only being a third of the way across the screen from that really giant gem, and even though I started drawing it in almost as soon as it made it on screen, it still vanished before I could get a hold of it. Here though, these guys are kind of hosed. I've got enough gems to just dispatch them all, more or less without thinking. That takes a while though, so I'm just gonna go stab them. I don't have patience for this kind of thing. What kind of stream do you think I'm running? Lisa is extremely important in the grand scheme of things. She is the daughter of Dr. Leo, who is the scientist that created the Satan summoning machine. Sorry, Death Toll summoning machine. This is Super Nintendo in the 90s. No Satans allowed. If I'm remembering correctly, that tulip is important to something that I didn't get the last time I went through this. I think. It's not something that comes into play until later in the game, but I prefer to get it now while I'm still thinking about it. This is another one of those times when the enemies just aren't smart enough to come after me, so I can pretty much pick them all off with a couple fireballs. That set of stairs is extremely important, but we haven't yet released the most important part, which is the house that goes up those stairs, or that goes at the top of those stairs. And of course, this is the worst airport ever. You have to go backwards and all around on the moving walkways. Really, I don't know who came up with this nonsense. Maybe it was Satan that designed it. I know for certain that Cat Jesus didn't come up with such a monstrosity. It's unholy. Kinda reminds me of Chicago O'Hare. I hate Chicago O'Hare. Midway's cool, but O'Hare can just, go fuck itself. The tool shop owner's son is also important. I don't think I showed this off the last time around, so that'll be, more fresh new content. Less fresh is standing there and stabbing goblins. This one has an awful lot of goblins in it. More ivy, better than less ivy. I don't quite know exactly how important that is, but I'm not going to say no to more. And you also never get to go down there. Like, you can see some more stuff, down in the background below, but you never actually get to go there. At least, I think you don't get to go there. That actually, now that I think of it, that might be the previous area we were in. Probably not, but maybe. This is another great little passageway for just using your sword and getting things to run into it. Really, the monsters aren't that smart. Of course, joke's on me, as sealing up that layer simply opens another with even more deadly enemies, in this case flies. Now that layer was triggered by walking close to it, that's why it knocked out, or kicked out, 2 flies at the same time. There are lots of different ways that the game might spawn enemies depending on which particular monster layer you're looking at. And I'm going to do the smart thing and blow away those torches before they can really cause me some trouble. Of course, those guys can shoot through wooden walls. I actually didn't realize that at first. But they're doing it. Alright. So we need to go down a bit if we want to grab the treasure. And who doesn't want to grab treasure? What kind of non-treasure grabbing people are out there? I don't think anybody. Now, this conveyor belt can be really obnoxious if you don't remember that you can, use your magic to take out the torches. There we go. Releasing the old man, well, brings him back into the world in a state of abject terror because he thinks he's seen a ghost. I'm not exactly certain whose ghost it is. It might be me just standing there. No, I'm gonna stay for now. There are some more monster layers. But what we got right there is an important clue for how to finish off the last few monster layers. We'll get to that in the future, though. Until then, we've got some more stuff to do. It says there are 5 monster layers left, and one thing that I wish was in this game that they actually put into started with Illusion of Gaia is a radar that tells you where all the monster layers are, and in fact where all the monsters are. Here we go. Nearly all the remaining monster layers are in here. This is going to be one of those cases where, as I finish off monster layers and seal them off, sealing them off is going to cause more to appear. Kind of a crappy reward. But in the end, it better be worth it. Well, it will be worth it. But while I'm waiting for it to be worth it, it's going to be really obnoxious. It had to be flies, didn't it? Two more to go. At least this one spits out, the flies in a timely fashion. Specifically at the rate at which I can kill them. Excellent. Alrighty then. I think it is about time we headed back to the village. I could teleport back there, but I don't really feel like going over there. I'd rather just take all those dudes out. But I still can't get down there. Oh well. It is time to move on. Now back in town we're going to have to... There's a bunch of people that we need to talk to. Lisa is the most important one. That's how we're going to progress the story. There are a couple of other items that we can pick up. For example, that's the game that telling you finally how to use the Dream Rod. Looks more like we're step dancing than crab walking. But at least the game, tells you what to do. And I'm a big fan of that, to have, things actually explained to you at some point. Even if it's something like a Dark Souls style message that just says, R1, defend. Okay, Mom. Whatever. There we go. We're going to need that in a second to feed a very particular goat. Aha, a hint towards progress. I am a big fan of secrets, so sure. Now that's supposed to be the hint to tell us how to get into the next dungeon. I don't really need it since, I know what to do. Let's go ahead and follow the goat, just to see what he gets up to. And he goes straight back to the tool shop to get some more food. Very gluttonous goat. Alright. Anything else? I think so. Here's the guy that was screaming. Now that painting is the entrance to the next dungeon, but we don't have the item of Dr. Leo's that we need yet. Now then, what we need to do is come in here. She's sleeping, so let's go ahead and equip the Dream Rod and talk to her again. First things first. That's the voice of Dr. Leo. And hitting the monster layer is going to let us go down and get that last chest. Well, that's a totally reasonable reaction. I guess I'll go. Wait. This girl really needs to make up her mind. Alright, well, I think it's fairly obvious where she hid the brush. So we're going to head back to the dungeon. It'd be kind of nice if there was a quick travel option. They actually appear later on. In the next dungeon there will be a teleport that'll take us to the... I guess it's called the Shrine? The place where we can save. But in the meantime... let's go get that last chest. And while we're at it, finish off the last of the monster layers. That's all. Alright, so we're done here. But before we go back to Lisa, I want to go talk to that, old man. Or do I? No, maybe hold off on talking to the old man. We can get a better line out of him later if we wait. Oops, can't get out that way. That's kind of annoying, having those two rocks there at the end. But that's how the game designers chose to gate that off, so that you had to get the ivy in addition to everything else. Back to Lisa then. And we will equip the brush. Those four will be your talking animal buddies as you go through the game, including the doll, which is considered an animal by this game. Actually, this game also considers houses and steps to be animals, so it's not, super surprising that a doll could be sentient and talk to you. Now that we've got the painting, or the paintbrush equipped, stepping in front of the painting takes us to the second dungeon. And it starts us off with some much more difficult enemies. However, you can still position yourself in such a way that they're very easy to defeat. I suppose it's a good introduction to the enemies. You can see what they do without them being too overbearing, and without having to deal with a bunch of other enemies and obstacles at the same time, which, of course, we'll have to do later. I like to think of that as, good game design, an escalation in how each enemy is used. I believe that's the sleeping tulip. We'll dreamrod him later. Now, in this case, even though they don't come out of the monster lair, all the torches here are, in fact, the monsters that we need to take out. The sheer number of them makes this room actually kind of tricky. And now that I think of it, I should probably go back and re-equip the medical herb just in case. Dying's for chumps, just FYI. These guys, their AI tells them that the best thing to do is to just stand there and throw spears like an idiot. My regular eye tells me that I'm just going to stand here and throw fireballs at them because those are better than spears. Now, actually the first time I saw these, I thought that these were platforms that you could move on, but it's actually just some weird, MC Escher nonsense. Well, I say nonsense, Escher's kind of cool, actually. But the entire point of this painting is that it's surreal. That goat will give us a tour around the village if we particularly need it, which we don't. Now this is a tougher use of the birds. What you want to do is kill them in such a way that they get staggered, so that the terrain doesn't mess you up. There we go, I was looking for that. I forgot which dungeon it came out of. That'll be useful. And of course, treasure, can't say no to that. Since we already have an herb, that's just a heal. Now, I'm pretty sure that the first time I ever saw the blocks come to life and try to kill me, I probably jumped a little bit in my chair. Like, not, you know, crazy PewDiePie scare cam freak out, because no normal human being reacts like that to a video game. But there is a jump. Slight jump. Now, that clang was for the fireball hitting the spiky thing. The spiky thing is made out of metal, so our regular sword can't kill it yet. That said, eventually, we will be able to get a sword that can kill it, and once we do, that last monster layer can be sealed off. For now, though, we'll have to be content with bringing back the stairs, and continuing onwards. I do kind of like that there's a reason to go back to the old dungeons and re-explore, but I don't think I quite like the way it's implemented in this game. Having to get a weapon, you know, much later on in the game, and then go back to each dungeon to kill the enemies that you couldn't before is kind of annoying. Actually, you know what other game did that I didn't like how it was done there? Was Link's Awakening for the original Game Boy. As much as I really liked that game, in the first dungeon there's a bombable wall, and you can't get bombs until after you've finished the first dungeon. So it's a bit problematic. Oh boy. This isn't going well. What I really want to do is get off of the moving walkway. It's a bit of a tense moment there. Alright, so we're gonna need, that's, you know, the super secret club or whatever. We'll need the club card for that, which is hidden elsewhere in the village. I know as a fact that I didn't show that off last time. I had to think for a second about whether or not I'd kill everything, but I did. It's okay. It's all cool. Now, coming back here actually heals you up completely. It's very handy. There are 2 monster layers remaining. One is for the metal guys here, and the other should be for the metal guys over here. I'm gonna go take a look just in case I'm forgetting about something, though. I have this terrible feeling that I am. Ah, yes. Nope. I had it wrong. There are some birds. There are 3 monster layers left, not 2. Another all-important tulip. Definitely going to go see him before everything is said and done. And we're also going to kill a few more blocks. We'll see him late. You know what? No, let's go talk to those guys now. I like to finish a video on a boss. Finish off with the boss fight. That's how it should be. So we're going to go and do just one more round of talking, and then take out the boss. And if you watched or played Illusion of Gaia and got all 50 of the red jewels, you might recognize the boss that we're going to fight. First, let's talk to this guy. very sad story. Turns into a very creepy story. Now, I can't remember if it actually says, but I believe he named the goat after his wife. And it also is his wife via reincarnation. Reincarnation, definitely a thing in these Enix games. You know what to do. Sleeping thing. Bring the Dream Rod. Kind of odd, but we're gonna do that. We'll get there. Now the strange thing is that it teleports you all the way over here, which is very obnoxious because I still have business with that tulip. So if we go up here, we were told that we can't be admitted without a pass. And down here, the kid tells us that there is treasure hidden nearby. The treasure is right there. I'm not exactly certain how you're supposed to know that you can push something, since it doesn't come up anywhere else in the game so far. In fact, I don't think it comes up in the game at all. I could be wrong, though. But hey, I got the pass, you better let me in. But there's nothing there. There's going to be treasure there, but we do need to come back with the iron cutting sword to make it appear. That's what'll happen once we take out the last few monsters in Leo's painting. Speaking of, let's get back to it, shall we? Now, one of the best parts about this first boss is that magic doesn't really harm it, so there's no risk in dying at all. That said, I'm still going to equip my medical herb, because dying is for chumps. See? It does nothing. Now, you might recognize this as the Gem the Jeweler boss from Illusion of Gaia, if you go to his mansion after finishing... or rather, after getting all 50 gems. He is extremely easy. The trick is, you can't fight him normally. If you try to go up there and just slash at him, he will literally bitch slap you. And you'll feel bad about yourself. So what you gotta do is walk up, well, first you have to draw him off to one side. Then, you need to lure him back while walking up the down conveyor belt and holding R to put your sword out in front of you. The end result of this is that he impales himself on your sword and can't hit you. Now, if you didn't figure out this trick, this guy's gonna mess you up something fierce. I mean, the absolute last thing you want to do is try to actually swing your sword at him. Because when you swing your sword, you have to stop, and when you stop, he's going to fireball you right in the face, at best. But with the trick, he's easily dispatched, and the chief is freed. And that basically does it for the first world. Let's go ahead and talk to the chief, save our game, and then we'll be ready for the next live installment. We're going to see about getting Catsworth back for the continuing adventures of Cat Jesus. We're going to be able to hear him next time as well. Rather, you're going to be able to hear him. And that'll be excellent. And maybe we'll get somebody else in as well. Haven't decided to, though. Of course, Dr. Leo's so smart, he knew exactly who would be coming. That's the Roger Delgado version. Now, the stones in this game, they actually make another appearance in Illusion of Gaia. They're the Mystic Statues the next time, though, and basically you collect them all to get the ultimate magic that lets you shoot phoenixes out of your arm. It's kind of badass. Alright, so next time out, we're going to head to Greenwood, and I will see you all then.